Predictable profit is probably the number one biggest thing that people are looking at in terms of buying something. If you can show 3, 4, 5 years of profit percentages that are fairly stable, that's going to be a huge part in terms of what you get back when you decide to retire, sell, or exit the business. But the biggest thing with the service industry that I see is too many people are the business. So owner bottlenecks, duplication of the owner role is probably the number one way that you're going to be able to have something that you can sell for more. Because if you are if you own all of the relationships, you're walking away doesn't give that new owner any confidence that those relationships are going to continue.
I'm Greg Forzani with Forzani Business Education, and this is the More Profit, Less Stress podcast, where we provide insights for more profit and less stress in your business now with the purpose of turning it into a valuable asset. Welcome to the More Profit, Less Stress podcast. I'm Greg Forzani. Guest today is Ron Farrell. This is cool. There's two reasons Ron and I wanted to get together and have a podcast today. One, Ron's in the unique position of he's a business coach now. He's licensed in our curriculum as well. But Ron actually is an expert in the subject we want to talk about today. Ron, I don't know about you, but I know this is going to get into kind of your journey and story because it's a perfect example. When I go out and meet and I network with business owners, I meet lots of people that own like a service kind of business. A lawyer, an accountant, an insurance broker, a real estate agent, a mortgage broker, those kind of people. They have a business that's like a book of business kind of business in their mind, meaning, maybe they have a clientele. Hopefully they have some kind of residual income, like you had in insurance, like from that clientele. And in their mind, it's like, well, I can sell that to somebody for lack of better words, a commission. If you kind of think of it that way, they call it selling a book of business.
That's basically what it is, or a multiple of commissions or something like that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So in their mind, that's what they're building. That's what they're selling. And it's not really worth a ton. It's worth something though. The reason for today's podcast is to kind of get people to go, well, wait a minute, step back a sec. Can I build that into a bigger business that's even more valuable? And what does that look like? And that's something you actually did. So it's perfect.
Yes, I did.
So I guess let's start with the end in mind, and then we'll go back to the beginning. We'll talk through sort of your journey and things you put in place and how that happened. But let's start with the end to get people to realize like, this is a real thing. This is no BS. So you sold a service business. Well, what kind of business was it?
Well, I was an insurance broker, mostly general property and casualty insurance, but some life insurance, group benefits as well. So that was the business that I'd been in for 22 years.
Well, and again, we'll go back to the story and talk through the journey, but at the end, like you sold for profit times a multiple. And what was that multiple?
We did. We sold for 11 times our EBITDA multiple.
Like that's like a really good business will sell for 5 times that multiple.
Right.
So 11's crazy, right? And that's way bigger and much different thinking than just selling for a normal multiple or for a book of business. I mean, that's like, you're not just selling for a multiple, you're selling for a serious multiple. So let's go back kind of the beginning. So you got into it, you're an agent, just you, did you have any, like, what did you have? What did the team look like?
I started out as an employee agent working for somebody else. Very, very small team. There was about 4 or 5 of us in the office at the time, including an unlicensed receptionist. I ended up buying that book of business or that business. And yes, we based our price on the value of the book of business as opposed to looking at profit multiples and things like that. So that was back in 2003. So very, very small operation. I spent a lot of the first few years doing the same thing that the previous owner was doing before I got comfortable enough to really explore trying to figure out how to do it better.
Right. And at that time, was your thought process and mindset like this is a book of business and it's always going to kind of be that smaller multiple book of business kind of business? Or like at what point in time did you go, like right from the beginning, did you think you could build into a bigger business that would sell for more, or did that sort of happen over time?
Well, right from the beginning, I expected to sell it for more only because I expected to grow our top line revenue.
Right.
So not because I was looking at what the profit was and percentage or multiple of profit. I was simply thinking that if we grow this, somebody's going to pay me more because we have more clients.
Right. So then in the beginning, it's a book of business kind of thought process.
Right.
And then I'm assuming as you grew that team and you grew more predictability, meaning you could bring agents under you, show them how to follow your system to be more successful, bring more revenue to the firm. Now you call it brokerage, not a firm, right?
We call it a brokerage. Yeah.
Yeah. And then at some point in that journey, it was like, hey, wait a minute, I'm building an actual business that has employees that I'm training. They're following whatever system I'm building, and then that gives me an EBITDA, and then that leads to a multiple of that. And now I got a business I can sell at some point.
Yeah. Um, and the reality is that it was probably only in the last 5 or 6 years that I was thinking differently about that I was looking at ways to become more profitable and how that would set me apart from other people in my industry.
Right. So that's a good point then. Would you say most service businesses, like it seems like when I talk to small service-based businesses, it kind of seems like they make as much as they should make as the employee or the service provider or the billable hour person, whatever you want to call it. And they don't really make
Yeah.
much more than that. So it's tough. It's tough, I think, for them to sell for much because it's more of a commission thing thought of. But it sounds like you focused on, okay, wait, how can I make my profit percent bigger? Which then leads to, hey, I can start getting bigger multiples. Because to make that profit percent bigger, you got to build a system around it. I don't know if that was actually a question, but comment on that.
That's okay. That's okay. Predictable profit is probably the number one biggest thing that people are looking at in terms of buying something. If you can show 3, 4, 5 years of profit percentages that are fairly stable, that's going to be a huge part in terms of what you get back when you decide to retire, sell, or exit the business. But the biggest thing with the service industry that I see is too many people are the business. So owner bottlenecks, duplication of the owner role is probably the number one way that you're going to be able to have something that you can sell for more. Because if you are if you own all of the relationships, you're walking away doesn't give that new owner any confidence that those relationships are going to continue.
I love that. Okay, so that's a great perspective. So first, so there has to be a mindset shift from book of business kind of business to a business that's predictably profitable you can sell. And you're saying step one is shift your mindset to what you just said, like stop being the bottleneck, the golden goose, and build a business where other people can equally succeed following whatever system you put in place.
Yeah, too many business owners pride themselves on the relationships that they built, but those relationships don't sell. You've got to have a team that can carry the relationships, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love it. I totally agree with that. And then I want to go back to something else you said. It sounds like you're also saying there's got to be a mindset shift from just sort of revenue to I gotta show there's a profit for the owner of the business, because the owner of the business may not actually be that broker in theory, right? You could own an insurance
The
business and
reality
not,
is,
or any.
hopefully they're not.
Yeah, good point. So then they're building the business instead of. So then you're saying mindset shift from just I'm the broker, I'm the relationships, grow the revenue, to figure out how you make an actual profit after all those expenses and cost of goods, which in a service business, I'd say cost of goods is the wage you pay the billable hour person, whatever that looks like. And if you can get that profit percent healthy and you can put a system in place that predictably grows it, now you got a business people want to buy. And they're not worried about when Ron leaves, I'm screwed because Ron has all the relationships.
Well, that's a little bit the difference between the P&C business in insurance, property, and casualty versus the life and health. When it comes to life and health businesses, the residual commissions are almost zero. Like they're very, very little. And yes, you've got a book of business, and a good book of business, maybe 10% rebuy on an annual basis. 10% of your book are buying something new from you from year to year. Whereas a property and casualty business, we get the same percentage in year one as we do in year 4, 5, 6. So that residual or the recurring revenue is much better in that type of business. And that's something that I see for something like an accountant as well. As long as you can maintain or keep those relationships that the seller had, you're going to have that residual revenue year after year after year, not just a small percentage of it.
Right. And then, again, I want to go back. So someone is got in their head they're a book of business and they're, them and an assistant and whatever. Like if you were talking to them and you're trying to help them realize you can switch to building a business that you can sell for a valuable asset, which you're proof you did that. You sold for 11 times profit
Yes.
and your profit percent was crazy. It was really good. So what kind of conversation would you have with that service provider right now that's in that mindset and thinks, oh, well, Ron, mine's different because blah, blah, blah. What would that conversation look like to help them kind
Well,
of open their eyes to this?
duplicating yourself. And what I mean is, you can't be the only accountant in the accounting firm. You can't be the only insurance agent in the insurance firm. And you can't be the only real estate agent in a realtor firm. If that's it, when you walk away, all relationships are lost.
Right.
So you've got to, bring on people to help you to do it, and then build a system where they can work with you, learn your ways, and become the same thing that you have been to your clients.
Right. And then at what point in that journey, because you went through this, at what point in that journey did you find, because I'm assuming in the beginning you were like, 100% agent. And then what did that kind of look like where I'm assuming you transitioned to be either less agent or at some point no agent at all. Like, I don't know what that looked like for you, but like, what did that
Yeah.
transition look like? Like what's that look like over like 5 years or something? Because right
Well,
now
the
they're
first
like, well,
several years,
I can't because I got to manage all my clients and I got to do this and I got to like, I can't do what Ron just said. How do I do that?
the first few years, I was agent from 9 to 5 and running the business after 5, basically,
But
doing
sometimes
the
that's a
business
sacrifice you
type
got to make,
thing
right?
outside of office hours, right?
Okay.
Uh, but I had a small team. And I really worked with training them to handle higher volumes, while not sacrificing on the customer service. Set targets. Set targets. Once we hit this revenue, we've got room to hire somebody else that's going to free up me to do more business stuff, and keep that going. 3, 4, 5, 10. You get 12 people in your operation. All of a sudden, you're not doing any customer service anymore. The last
Right.
4 or 5 years, I'd talk to customers 5 or 6 times a month, maybe. That was not my job anymore. I had a really good team to handle.
I love it. So I think you're right there. I think a lot of people would struggle with, like, I know a lot of people, business owners struggle with, okay, that makes sense, but how do I know when I can afford to hire that person? Like, what does that look like? So I think you're dead right. And I think what helps with that, like in our curriculum, we have the profit plan, which actually we can build a budget with them so they know exactly when they can afford to hire that next person. And then to your point, when they hit it, hire the person. Then when they hit it again, hire the person. Then when they hit it again, hire the person.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good advice. So, okay. So what else would you say is if you're speaking to that person today that's resistant to the idea, what else would you add to that? Any other
Well, the
tips, points?
customer retention becomes a really big part of that type of business, particularly something that pays similarly year after year after year. Because then, if you've got an 85% retention, you only have to recover 15% of those clients every year, which means that servicing the customers becomes a whole lot easier. And if you're recovering more than the 15%, you're growing your business, and it gives you an opportunity to really, really build enough revenue and enough profit to put a team in place.
That's a good point. Because I think there's probably a lot of service businesses where their retention might be 50%. And then all that stress comes on if they got to replace that 50% just to get back the same revenue number. That's super
Yeah.
stressful. And it's expensive because you got to market. That costs money and time. So to your
Well,
point,
you're
that
not
client
wrong.
retention
I
process.
feel for realtors a little bit because not everybody buys a house every year.
Right.
It's a
Yeah.
little bit more
But that's
challenging for them.
totally. But even in the realty business, like from what I understand, and I coached a realtor, so I think I know these numbers pretty good. But the average person changes houses or residence like every 4.5, 5 years, give or take.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty quick, right? So then in their case, like say in the insurance business, you were looking at a customer for a year. They're just looking at, instead of a year, they're looking at a 4.5, 5 year window. So I need
Right.
enough to keep me in that 4.5, 5 year window. And then it starts over again. And then what retention am I keeping? And I think I think to your point, if we put all this together for a second, if it's realtors or mortgage brokers or people like that, probably because their average customer doesn't buy every year. They're buying every 5 years. They probably don't do a great job of retention because they're thinking, oh, like they already bought a house. And then forgetting that like 5 years later, the whole cycle starts again with everybody. So they lose because they don't keep that relationship, or they don't have a retention, they don't have an intentional customer retention process in place. Then when that 5 year cycle is done, then maybe 10% of their clients are buying from them again. That's crazy. Then they got to go to get a whole 90% new client base. Where if they took your advice there and kept 85% of those customers, then the next 5 year cycle, if they did the same work they did in the first 5 year cycle,
Yeah.
they get 85% of those customers plus a whole nother 100%. They're 185% of the customers that they had in the first cycle. And now they have to hire an agent to help them deal with all those people. And that agent's like, how are you so busy? They're like, well, come work for me. I get a cut. You follow my system. So even a realtor, that works. It's just a bigger time window.
It's just a longer cycle for sure. I bought 5 houses, used 5 different realtors, which is really unfortunate.
It's so funny you just said that, because that's the same thing I say to people. I bought 12 houses now in my life, never use the same realtor twice. That tells
Yeah.
you something. You bought 5, never the same realtor twice. Like that actually tells you something, that they're kind of missing that
Yeah, the
point.
retention part just right out the window. That
Yeah.
said, on the mortgage broker side, which is kind of a very similar timeline because you're often signing for a 3 year or a 5 year term, I've used the same mortgage broker for the last 4 mortgages.
So they did a better job.
Much better job. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It goes to show you. So that's actually good advice for a service business where it's, hey, my business is different, Ron. It doesn't work in monthly or annual cycles. Then that's okay. It could be a 5 year cycle. Same
Could be.
business model. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So what are some of the things you put in place or to watch for? Because again, you built this journey. You went from small, a couple of people on the team, did some growth, and at some point in that journey switched to, hey, I want to build a business here. So actually, I want to ask this question.
Okay.
When your perspective changed from, I have a traditional book of business, and let's just say that's like I'm selling my clients for a commission kind of thing, and your mindset changed to, I want to focus on EBITDA and a multiplier of that, like a bigger number. When you made that mindset shift, and I think you said like 4 or 5 years ago, what are some of the things you started doing differently or focusing on or accelerating? Like when you made that mindset change, what did you start focusing on and saying, I got to now do this stuff?
Okay. A few things. One of the things I was just about to bring up with you, Greg, was staff retention. It's one thing to grow your customer base to need more staff, but making sure that you've got a team that's got some tenure, some longevity in that, because that really increases the ability to do good work. And then putting systems in place so that when a customer calls, it's the same process, time after time after time. And it doesn't matter if they're
Consistency.
talking to, yeah, it doesn't matter if they're talking to Kent or to Gary or to Brittany or whomever, the system's the same. So
Love it.
checklists, just, yeah, systemize things.
And did you get into like, say, a hiring process where you're making sure you're hiring the right people that will follow that system, fit that culture, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, we've had more of a traditional style hiring process for a long time. First interviews, second interviews, questionnaires, two different interviewees, things like that. But of late, we started using the DISC profile, and that was a big part of determining who we wanted for a role and what personality profile fit best.
So can you expand on that a little bit? Because somebody listening to this might be like, what the hell is a disc pro? Is it like a frisbee? Like I throw it for a dog? Like what is that? So
Isn't that right?
because I love it. Yeah.
So yeah, DISC obviously is based on the acronym. So D for director, I for influencer, S for socializer, and C is, Greg, you might have to remind me what the C
Like
stands for.
congruency or
Consistency. I
yeah.
always think of it as like the engineer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So each one of those personalities has a really good, strong role in most businesses. but they're not the same role. You probably want somebody with the socializing personality at your front desk. An
So they're
influencer is
not a
usually going to
jerk
be
and they understand they got to keep the relationship.
right. And an influencer is going to be a great salesperson. If you've got
Yeah.
quality control on the back end, you probably want that C personality. And of
Yeah.
course, the D or the director, somebody that can see a big picture. Department heads are a good place for a D personality. And
Right.
of course, you want some of that in the owner of the company as well.
Yeah, for sure. I love it. Okay. So then you focused on a hiring process to make sure people fit in the culture. And maybe what are some tips? And again, this is flipping somebody from, we want to get people into business owner perspective when they're in this book of business kind of service business. So they're not used to probably leading people. They're not used to developing culture. What are some good tips on keeping your staff? Which culture might be one of those tips you talk about.
Right. So keeping the staff, obviously compensation is a huge part of it. So I've always felt that if I ask a lot of my team, and I do, I should pay them better than average. Compensation
Oh,
should
the
be,
ask is high.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
not going to lie. I expect a higher volume, higher workload than some of my competitors, but I also pay them probably 25 to 50% more.
Right.
And then the big part of it for me has always been let's build a bonus structure so that you're rewarded for really good, solid work, for growing the
Right.
company, for growing the profit in the company.
Right.
So,
I
yeah,
love
bonus
that.
structure is
That's
helpful.
a tool we put in the curriculum because I agree with you totally. And that's a tool we put in the curriculum that's super important because I think a lot of business owners buy into a bonus structure, but then they don't know how to calculate that bonus so that it's actually profitable, right? They end up calculating a bonus where it ends up hurting the company. Great for the staff, but then it hurts the company. And if it hurts the company, then eventually it's going to hurt the staff too, because then the company can't afford the staff. But yeah, love that tip. Uh, what else?
On that, back to the bonus structure, it shouldn't be an equal. It shouldn't be equal for all participants. It should be based on production, based on
Love it.
contribution,
Yeah.
because yeah, then you have the right to earn what you want to. And if you don't want to work for it, you're not going to ride somebody else's coattails.
So you're basically saying the bonus shouldn't be based on participation.
No. Um, it's no different than when it comes time for a raise. It's not time in. Time in doesn't earn you a raise. It's what else are you bringing to the company?
Right. Makes me, sorry, just to divert for a second, makes me picture the whole Meet the Fockers movie series. I think
Yeah,
it's Meet the Parents. I think it's Meet the Parents one where they all
right.
go to his parents and they have the the wall with like ninth place ribbons and participation trophies and there's
Yeah.
no makes me think of that. But you're right, right? You're trying to incentivize people to perform and then get compensated on merit for sure.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I agree totally
For
with
sure.
that.
And we paid thousands of dollars in bonuses over the years. And my average employee was there close to 5 years. My longest employee was with me
Awesome.
for 19 years.
Oh wow, that's great. Okay, so two questions. If you can sort of answer question one is what are some things you did to build the culture? It sounds like, by the way, you in your culture you wanted a culture of like merit based. You gotta you want to build a winning team and you want people to be on that team that want to be winners. So it sounds like that's part of your culture. But
Right.
so what are some of the things you did to build the culture? But then the second question is once you had that built, did you notice like people on the team that bought into that culture, if there was a new team member or an existing team member that kind of fought the culture and didn't fit it, how'd the team react?
Both of those things happened, of course. And yes, when we talked about merit based, that was on the compensation side. On the culture side, we did a lot of things just so that people wanted to be with each other, wanted to support the company. For a while there, early on in the early years, a Christmas party would be a dinner out at a restaurant or something like that. The last several years, I took them away to it was a small boutique hotel with 10 rooms. We rented all 10 rooms.
Cool.
They
That's
stayed
cool.
the night. We had dinner. We went out to a restaurant, jumped in the hot tub, all of that type of thing. It was just a really nice, relaxing 10, 15 hours together as opposed to just your 2 hour dinner at Christmas time.
Right.
Um,
That's cool.
had barbecues out at our place fairly often, and just got everybody involved. And yeah, you're right about the staff members that don't buy in. There was one particular person that he'd been with me for 3 years and he never once came to a Christmas party, which was a little unfortunate because you felt it in the team afterwards.
Because they question.
So
For
yeah,
sure. Yeah, I totally relate to what you're saying. I know, like down here, we had a store and stabbed like the barbecues at our place or whatever, and then do like a
yeah.
games night, and then it just became lots of fun. It's great, and it builds a. And then I think to your point, when someone doesn't engage, the rest of the team sort of, I guess, number one, questions that person, but number two, they look at the leader and say, like, if you got someone not sort of engaged in the team and wanting to support each other and win, then they look to you as to what are you doing about it. And if it's a constant not doing anything about that, trying to fix it, then all of a sudden what you're trying to build becomes fractured and they don't take it as seriously.
Well, that gets to another conversation entirely about toxic people
Yeah,
because there's, somebody that's maybe not all that social, but still does good work and supports the team at the office. That's okay. You can work
yeah,
around that.
yeah.
But if that same person is not contributing at the office, I'll tell you something that I've seen actually with somebody else's business, that it is more detrimental to keep somebody poor than to hire somebody good. It's because you lose your best people if you only show the ones grace that aren't stepping up because they feel like they're carrying the person that's not stepping up. That person is being compensated for work that the good employees have done. They just don't want to support the team any longer if that's what the manager is supporting.
Agreed. And then it feels, it can almost feel disingenuous to the rest of the team. Like, is this performance culture, this attitude of supporting each other and helping each other do the best job we can, like, is that a real thing or is it kind of a pretend thing when you're seeing others aren't following it and it's being allowed, right?
The staff is probably the biggest thing that I had going for me when I did sell my business. I had a great team with good tenure. They knew what they were doing. They were following systems because, yeah, systems are only as good as the people that carry them out.
Yeah, because if they don't do them, then they don't matter. Okay,
Yeah.
so you just said something I want to ask more on. So building this culture of people that like work together, it's a team, they support each other, they're engaged, they want to perform. Everybody deep down, I shouldn't say everybody, the kind of people you want working for you deep down, they want to succeed, they want to do well, they want to be part of a winning team, they want to provide a great service or whatever they're doing or product.
Right.
I agree with all that. So, but I think you're making me realize there's a dotted line here to the person buying the company at some point. If they walk in and see that exists and they see that when the owner leaves and they step in, will that continue? That dramatically increases the value of the company, the multiplier they'll pay, right? Because they see the
Yeah.
predictability in the future. And I'm assuming that's something the people that buy your company probably saw.
Well, I'm hoping that was one of the reasons that they paid us what they paid because yes, I valued my staff and actually made decisions in who I was going to sell to based on how they were going to treat my staff more than what I was going to get paid.
Right. And potentially if the buyer of the company sees that those staff are there not just because the leader, but they're there because of the team, then they're far more likely to stay when the leader
Yeah.
leaves because they're there also for the
Without
team and
question.
those relationships.
But it's not just that. I mean, the culture that you've got then leads to the way your customer service is for your clients. It helps you to build a referral ecosystem. There's so many things that having the right team and the right team culture in place really does for a business.
Yeah. So to your point, it goes a long way to get that retention rate from 50 to 85% or whatever the number is going to be.
Right.
Yeah, I get it. I remember, I'm just thinking of an example, but that my wife and I bought a store down here. And it's just a really good example of when we first bought the store, the staff she acquired with the store were not good. So she made changes right away. So there's another thing, right? Fire fast, hire slow. But I
Yes.
remember in the very beginning, she kept saying, oh, the big complaint right now is the customers, because she started to build a relationship with the customers because she had shitty staff and she had to get rid of them. So then the customers became very reliant on, oh, is Sandra here? If she's not here, I'll come back and talk to her. So then she had to
Yeah.
work hard on making sure that the staff all became equally as competent with the customers. So the customers didn't care who they talked to when they came in. And then that became, better for her because obviously customer retention was better, is consistent service, takes the onus off the owner. They don't have to be there every day, like every hour. And then for the buyer of the company, they see that and go, perfect. When that owner leaves, I just step in and everything keeps running the way it is.
Yeah. Or another thing that I thought about is that when you've got a team, you've got more than one brain working for it. You can have specialties. You can have one person that's really, really, really good at, say, commercial insurance, where somebody else
Right.
is much better at home and auto insurance. And in doing that, it's better because it takes off the pressure from you as an owner, and it actually probably gets more information, more product knowledge into their heads that they pass on to the customer.
I love it. Boy, you're making me, this is the coach in me now. Because as you're saying that, I'm like, I got a solution for that. So that leads to that service provider could do a better job of creating we call it an infographic or whatever, but like some kind of graphic that shows the customer all the areas you can help the customer with and the expertise in each area, because you
Right.
have different team members that can provide that expertise. So now the firm, the brokerage, the company are truly more well-rounded experts on all the different things they offer, which now separates you from the little single broker or single person with the assistant company who's really good at one thing and not so good at the others. And the customer can tell because the customer sees
Right.
that other company and has this stuff they're better at. And then, how cool is that? Then to your point, when you're working with a customer, you can bring in different experts from your business to help with those different areas, which A, would help you sell more services to that customer in their best interest. B, customer retention is going to be better because the results are better. And then C, back to your other point, the customer will talk and you get referrals. So that's a win
Yeah.
all the way around. And then I guess the final point of that is then the buyer comes along and realizes what they're buying. They're not buying that one person's expertise. They're buying the firm or brokerage's expertise. That's huge.
Well,
That's
Greg, one of the things you just said in the last couple of sentences there was they can buy more services from you. And we talk
yeah,
about the number of transactions per customer as one of our metrics, right?
yeah,
If you only offer one service because you're a one man operation or one woman operation, um, your chances of increasing that average number of services is almost impossible. But if you have different expertise, your number of transactions can go up per customer, right?
totally. Yeah, 100%. And then customer retention's better because, let's say I'm buying car insurance from you, but I'm buying life insurance from somebody else. And all of a sudden that other company says life insurance starts selling car insurance. I
Yeah.
might leave you because it's just easier for me. It's more convenient, right?
We called that building a fence around our clients,
Right. Yeah.
making sure
Makes
that they're
sense.
not talking to our competition about the other service. Yeah.
That's a really good point though. That's a great graphic for anybody with a service business. How do you build a fence around your business so that, like, what if you're a realtor and you don't have a relationship with a mortgage broker? So you get a client who's, maybe not a long-term client or isn't like close family member or friend or whatever. So they just sort of know you. And then they go find their own mortgage broker. And that mortgage broker is like, hey, you know what? I don't know who your realtor is, but I got this really good person right here that here's why you should think about looking at them. Now that customer's like, do I stay with this realtor or change? Right. So that's the fence. So I think, no,
Yeah.
I love that idea. I think no matter what service business you're in, how do you align with others? How do you put the services in your fence for sure? But if
Right.
you can't, how do you align with other service providers where together you're keeping the fence around the customer and all in the customer's best interest?
Without
Yeah,
question.
that's a really good piece of advice. So okay, so let's talk about, we've talked about kind of where you began. We've talked about things you've added. So let's talk about towards the end of that journey. And again, the purpose of trying to open the eyes of a service provider business that's maybe a little small right now and they're just thinking book a business, just to sweeten the pot of getting them to open their mind here and go, okay, wait a minute, I could build a business maybe. Talk about at the end what it looked like with you had this business you built, you did a bunch of stuff we just talked about. You had very healthy EBITDA. And just for clarity for everybody, that means, if you had your revenue, you had cost of goods, say in many service providers cases is what you pay the people that do the billable hours. Let's just call it that. Then you got your operating expenses, you got a profit left over. And in your case, that profit is very healthy, which is awesome. So you built the systems, you made it predictable, you had the team that wanted to stay, you had it all set up where someone could walk in and you could leave and they could succeed. So talk a little bit about, from your experience and knowledge and what you've seen with your business and other businesses, for a buyer looking, what's the appetite difference between what we just talked about you were selling and then just a book of business kind of business where it's a broker with a virtual assistant or whatever? Like, what's the appetite difference from the buyer's perspective?
From the buyer's perspective, if you are the person that's provided all that service, they're basically either buying themselves a job or coming into something with almost no chance of retention. And those two things are very, very hard for a new business or a new owner to swallow. The profitability is not going to be predictable if it counts on the owner.
Especially if those customers are like, oh, wait, Ron's gone. I don't know if I like you, so I might shop around, right?
I had a relationship with a customer for a long time through a networking organization that I was part of. And he said, I've been with this company for a long time, really like my broker, but I know he's going to retire soon. When he retires, I'm coming to you. So
there's your answer right there.
As soon as he retired, the fence was gone. The new purchaser didn't have any reason or any ability to keep him.
So then from the buyer's perspective, they're looking at so that was the one that's just kind of broker with virtual assistant. And now looking at a business like yours, and I know we've talked a lot about this already, but how's that change that appetite? Are they in a rush to buy this one over here, or are they in a rush to buy yours? Like, I would think the sense of urgency around if they find a business like what you built, they want to move fast and get it because there's probably not many like that and they might lose that opportunity where there's probably lots like this over here.
Right. Selling a book of business when you are the only agent, accountant, realtor, mortgage broker, you're probably going to have a hard time finding a buyer because they have no relationship that's going to allow those clients to really want to stay. However, with mine, I approached 4 potential buyers and I got 4 offers. I didn't hire a business broker. I didn't need to because I knew people that were looking for acquisitions. And again, I talked to 4 of them. I got 4 offers.
See this? Sorry, keep going. I'll add to it in a sec.
If they don't act fast, somebody else is going to snap that up.
Right. So I love you brought that up because I find exactly the same thing. Like our whole, like what you and I do with clients, the whole curriculum and program and intention is to build what you built with your insurance company, that asset that can be sellable, it's highly desirable. So when you do that, I'm finding the same thing because they're all like, okay, I got to go find a broker. I'm like, no, you don't need to find a broker. Just put it out there, list it these different ways, talk to these different people. And because it's so few and far between a business like that, and you just said it, lots of people are like, I want that. That's a diamond in the rough. Those don't exist. And all of a sudden, like, it doesn't take long to find a buyer for a business like that because it's a diamond in the rough. And then you save I don't know, I guess it depends on the selling price of the business. But yeah, like I'm trying to figure out the range, but yeah, like 4 to 10%, like that could be a lot of money, right? That's a ton of money. And so then instead, and I know you offer this service, but putting together a sellable, like a package that shows people my business is for sale. Here's the valuation. Here's why it's worth this. Like investing in something like that is far less than paying someone 10% brokerage fee.
Oh my God.
And by the way, even if you pay a broker 10% brokerage fee, most of them probably don't do a very good job putting that package together because they're not.
I can attest to that.
Yeah. Like it just ends up being like a real estate listing sheet, right? All the ones I've seen is just like this one document. There's no justification as to why the business is worth that makes sense, right? Like it's just kind of a list of a number. So by helping them build a package that justifies the price to the buyer, just makes it that much more appealing and valuable and more likely to sell.
And one of the other things too, when you go to sell your business that most people forget about is going to their natural market. Talking to people they know
Yeah.
first, because you never know when that opportunity is coming up. And you and I both are experiencing that because one of your clients is selling their business to me, and we've known
Right.
each other for 14 years. That just came because of a natural market. Yes, he had his business posted on some websites that sell businesses, but
Yeah. But I think you
yeah,
found it on Facebook, right? Like on his thing.
yeah,
Correct me if I'm wrong.
I
You
found
just
it
saw
on
it on
his Facebook. You're exactly
Yeah,
right.
he just said, "Hey," yeah, exactly. So to your point, I agree totally with that. To your point, you have no idea where the buyer's coming from. None.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sort of exaggerating here, but you could put it on the back of your window of your truck and you never know, right?
Yeah.
Someone driving behind you might be like, "Hey, I'm interested." Yeah, you never know. Absolutely.
Well, and just have conversations. I had a service provider in my home working on my reverse osmosis yesterday, and we had a good conversation about business. So there's so many different places that those conversations can lead to something that's much more.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love it. Really appreciate you sharing your story and the tips. It just I know from speaking with so many people, there's so many service businesses out there that just think, oh, I'm in an industry where it's just me and my assistant, and I'll get some kind of a commission sale, like a book of business sale where I get a commission for a little bit. I mean, they're happy with that. I think they don't know what they don't know, and they don't realize that they can turn it into a business like you did. And that's
Some people are so afraid of having staff that it
yeah.
prevents them from having anything to sell.
Actually, can you expand on that? Because you're right. We hear that all the time. So,
The rea-
what can you say right now to change people's mind on that fear?
Sometimes human resources is the most challenging part of your job. I'm not going to lie.
Yep.
It
Yeah,
can be
for sure.
challenging at times.
Yep.
But honestly, if you don't build a team around you, you've got no asset that you can put money in your pocket when you're ready to walk away. And it's worth the struggles. And there's really, really good people out there that will add to your business, that will help you to be so much more than you could be on your own.
I love it. So, build a hiring process that deselects the people that are the wrong fit and
Yeah,
draws the people that are the right fit. Have training, put a culture in place, have a system they follow to succeed at, lead them, pay them properly, like through merit, maybe have bonuses. And then I guess the point is what you're saying is that's the thing, that team around you that allows you to grow and be bigger. That's actually what validates the asset, the business. Because to your point, solo person with business is really hard to pay a lot for because there's high risk of it going. Where if you got that team around you, so I guess the point is to anybody that says, oh, I don't like dealing with people, you're just saying the short way to say it is suck it up, buttercup, but the long way to say it is what I just said. Because
yeah,
if you want that, without sharing numbers, you probably got, well, you got 7 times or 7.5 times more than you paid for the company. So there's your
that's right.
answer right there. That's the answer. It's right there in black and white.
Well,
That's a
and
big
there's a
number, right?
limit
Like
to what
that's,
one person can do. There's a limit to
yeah,
what one person can do. So if you want to grow, you need people.
yeah,
So,
for sure. Awesome, my
yeah.
man.
Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you, Greg.
And so, okay, so people are interested in talking to you about, because you provide business coaching. How do they get a hold of you?
My website is the best way, groundedgrowthcoaching.ca. And my phone number is all over that, as well as through LinkedIn, Facebook. I reach out there as well. So
And if they see the website and they're intrigued, I'd especially say if they're in a service business where they're just thinking like book a business thing, they should reach out to you. But if they go there, I'm assuming you do like a free first strategy call or something like that.
absolutely. There's got to be a good fit that when you're strategizing with the business owners, about a 90-minute call just to make sure that I'm the right person for them and they're the right client for me.
Cool. Awesome, my man. So before we go, our producer always likes to throw a couple of random unexpected questions at us. There's 2 questions, so I'll ask you first and then I'll answer, but we'll just do one question at a time. So first question, what's the most unexpected adventure you've ever been on, and how did it shape who you are today?
Most unexpected adventure. So I love to travel. And
Nice.
the last couple of trips have been to Ireland. The first one was absolutely mind blowing. We spent 2 weeks in Ireland, touring the entire area and visiting my heritage. We actually went to a
Cool.
castle that was owned in our family 500 plus years ago. Loved it so much that I took my family back this last year. My parents, who had never been to Ireland, and both of my daughters for graduation present, and it was amazing.
Cool.
How did
Awesome.
it shape me? Yeah,
Yeah,
just I'll tell you the one thing that I came back with that was a much better relationships with both of my daughters, and that was never the intention.
that's awesome. That's really cool. That's actually really cool. Crap. It's mine. My wife and I, it's the same thing. Love to travel, go on adventures, the whole bit. Really cool. We do lots of different stuff. I would say one of the trips we went to Costa Rica, did lots of stuff. Then a year later or 2 years later, we went to Panama. And on the Panama trip, we found a spot we could go surfing, which was not on the shore. It was out in the ocean. It was kind of interesting and we're
Mm,
not like, I'm like intermediate surfer at best, and she was like beginner. So
wow.
it was an area out in the ocean where 2 bodies of water hit each other, and kind of like a river creates the waves, and then you
Hmm.
surf those. So, but it's way out there. And maybe, I guess I'll say my learning experience at the end, but the experience was sometimes, or my confidence level of doing things is generally speaking a little too high. I'm not usually one to hold myself back from trying or doing something because I just think, oh, it'll work out. So we go do it. I surfed through it, did fine. And then there was one instructor and there's the two of us. I go through. And so it's like a conveyor belt of these waves out there. So I go through, come back around, and then my wife goes through, and like literally probably in a situation where I was like, 75% chance she would have died. And she doesn't like she's not good with water. She's not a good swimmer. She's fearful of water. So just to get her out there was a big deal, right? So she's
Right.
drowning, and I'm not a strong surfer or paddler, so I'm trying to paddle to get to her and I can't get there quick enough, but the instructor is really good. So he gets there in time and saves her. So I guess the learning lesson is it's always I've always been a big believer in like, go try stuff. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, or you figure out how to make it work. But maybe in some cases, a little more homework sometimes can pay off.
Trust the experts
More
too.
due diligence and trust the experts. Exactly. There you go. So trust the
Right.
experts and a little more due diligence, because I didn't do any
Fair
due
enough.
diligence at all. Okay.
Right.
Second question. What's a hobby? What's a hobby you picked up that surprised even you?
So during COVID, when we were stuck inside, when you couldn't do any activities with other people inside, I
Right.
decided to take up motorcycle riding. I went out and bought a
Really?
bike first. Yeah, bought a bike first, then went and got my license, and
That's cool.
absolutely love it. It's a culture in and of itself. Just the camaraderie that you get with other riders is absolutely amazing.
Right.
Just easy to lose yourself when you're flying down the road with the wind in your face.
Right. And so that's 6 years ago, and you still only have one bike, right?
Right? You mean three? Well,
Yeah.
three between myself and my wife, and
Right.
yeah,
So it's definitely a hobby you
the
love.
right number of bikes is always just one more.
That's cool. That's awesome. I'm gonna say mine happened last night, and it's pickleball. I resisted
Yeah.
it for so long. But I played last night for 2.5 hours, first time ever. And anybody who hasn't played, fun game, lots of strategy, but actually crazy workout if you play with good players, because you got to move a lot. Like, I am every muscle in my body, I feel it, like abs, glutes, hamstrings, quads, everything. Like, I can't believe it. I'm like, I made fun of people playing pickleball, right? It's like, not anymore. It's cool. Totally enjoy it.
That's great. That's
Awesome.
awesome.
Yeah. Thanks, my man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Frank. Appreciate your time again.
Thanks for listening to the More Profit, Less Stress podcast. If you liked what you heard, be sure to subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast platform and leave a comment or review as it helps with the algorithm. To learn more about us and what we do, check out our website. Until next time, go make it happen.